Okay, I know I messed up. I need anyone to tell me if I'm a complete monster or just the world's biggest idiot, because right now the two feel exactly the same. The silence in this apartment is a physical thing. It's pressing in on me. I keep waiting to hear the soft click-clack of his keyboard from the study or the low hum he'd make when he was deep in thought. But there's nothing. I just stood in front of our closet for 10 minutes, staring. My side is all structured blazers and color-coded silks. His side, it's a graveyard. Just a few lonely wire hangers he didn't want. He took all his stupid, worn-out flannel shirts and those faded band tees I hated so much. It sounds so pathetic when I write it down. For 2 years, I made him my personal project, my brand refresh. I'm a brand strategist, for God's sake, and I treated my own boyfriend like a poorly marketed product that just needed better packaging. And now he's gone. He packed up his entire identity, the one I tried so hard to bury under cashmere and tailored jackets, and just vanished. No fight, no note on the counter. Just an empty space where he used to be. After all my noise, all my critiques, his final statement was silence, and it's louder than any argument we ever could have had. When I met Hudson, none of that mattered. Our first real date was at a scruffy coffee shop with mismatched chairs. He wore a faded NASA t-shirt, the one with the vintage worm logo, and he spent 20 minutes explaining the elegant simplicity of its design with more passion than my boss had ever shown for a seven-figure campaign. He was a software engineer, one of those brilliant, quiet types who seem to exist on a different plane, untroubled by trends. He was kind, steady, and had this calm about him that felt like coming home. I found his complete lack of pretense intoxicating. He was a refuge from the world I lived in. My world was the polar opposite. I'm a brand strategist at a high-end advertising agency where image isn't just everything. It's the only thing. My days are spent in glass-walled meeting rooms, dissecting the semiotics of a font or the aspirational narrative of a perfume ad. We sell lifestyles curated perfection. My colleagues are human mood boards, their lives are their resumes, their weekends are content opportunities, their partners are brand aligned. It's an exhausting, toxic environment, but I was good at it. I thrived on the validation. Then I made the mistake of mixing my worlds. The first time I brought him to a proper work event, a chic gallery opening sponsored by one of our luxury clients, the anxiety began. The air smelled of expensive perfume and quiet ambition. Hudson showed up looking handsome, clean, and perfectly at ease in a crisp button-down and dark jeans. But to my eyes, now filtered through the hypercritical lens of my peers, he might as well have been wearing a potato sack. I was watching him from across the room, genuinely laughing with one of the artists when my mentor, Genevieve, a woman who wore architectural clothing and spoke in hushed, intimidating tones, glided up to me. She followed my gaze, a thin smile on her face. "He's so wonderfully authentic, Tessa," she said, her voice dripping with the kind of condescension reserved for a charmingly rustic piece of furniture. She patted my arm, a real throwback. She probably thought she was being kind, but in our world, authentic was a euphemism for unpolished, and throwback was code for irrelevant. It landed like a physical blow. A hot, prickling shame washed over me. It wasn't about his clothes anymore, it was a public branding of him and by extension of me. In that moment, all I could hear was a single deafening thought. He doesn't fit. That night lying in bed, I watched him sleep, and for the first time, I didn't just see the man I loved. I saw a project, I saw a problem to be solved. His greatest strength, his utter indifference to the shallow world I inhabited, had become, in my mind, his greatest flaw. And slowly, like a poison, his comfort started to feel like my embarrassment. My campaign to remake Hudson started subtly, couched in the language of love and gifts. It was a slow, insidious creep. "I saw this and thought of you," I'd say, presenting him with a slim-fit merino wool sweater in a muted, sophisticated color. He'd thank me, a little confused, and wear it once to make me happy. Then it would disappear into the back of his closet, crowded out by the comfortable, familiar hoodies I was secretly waging a war against. I started a covert operation of attrition, accidentally shrinking his favorite worn-in t-shirts in the wash or misplacing the faded baseball cap he loved. Each item that vanished was a small victory for me. My suggestions became more frequent, more pointed, disguised as helpful hints. "Honey, maybe not the cargo shorts for brunch with my parents. Let's try these nice chinos, they really flatter you." Each suggestion was a tiny chisel chipping away at his identity. I became the curator of his closet and by extension his public persona. Before we'd go anywhere, I'd give him the once-over, my eyes scanning for any sartorial offense. A slight frown from me was enough to send him back to the bedroom to change. The worst part is I was fully aware of what I was doing. I was the self-aware saboteur, watching myself in slow motion with a kind of detached horror. I remember one evening we were getting ready to go out for a friend's birthday. He came out of the bedroom wearing one of his favorite t-shirts, a soft, gray one with the beautifully illustrated cover of a sci-fi novel he loved. I felt a familiar, ugly surge of irritation. "You're not really wearing that, are you?" I asked, my tone lighter than I felt. He stopped, looking down at his shirt as if seeing it for the first time. "What's wrong with it?" he asked, genuinely curious. It's a bit juvenile, don't you think, for a birthday dinner?" He didn't argue. That was the thing with Hudson, he never argued. He would just get this quiet, shuttered look on his face, as if a light inside him had been dimmed. He went back into the bedroom without a word and changed into a plain, dark polo shirt I'd bought him. When he came back out, he looked smaller, diminished. He sat on the edge of the bed, tying the laces on the stylish leather sneakers I'd insisted he get, and the silence was deafening. In that moment, I saw exactly what I was doing. I saw the man I was trying to erase. I felt a pang of guilt so sharp it almost made me double over. I had a choice right then to say, "You know what? Wear the other shirt. I love that shirt." But my phone buzzed with a text from my friend asking where we were, and the vision of us walking into the trendy restaurant, of him looking out of place, flooded my mind. The vanity, the desperate need to present a perfect picture to the world, was a stronger drug than my conscience. I just walked over, patted his shoulder, and said, "See. You look so much better now." He just nodded, his eyes fixed on the floor. After that, he stopped offering opinions on what to wear. He'd just wait for my approval, a silent mannequin in our life together. The breaking point came, as it always does, over something both significant and incredibly stupid. It was my company's annual awards gala, a glittering affair at a downtown hotel with panoramic city views. This was a huge night for me. I was receiving a major award for a campaign I'd led, the culmination of a year's worth of sleepless nights and relentless work. This event was my Super Bowl, the one night a year where the brutal, competitive nature of my industry was cloaked in champagne and self-congratulation. The pressure I put on the evening and on Hudson was immense. I had this perfect image in my head of us walking in, a power couple, a testament to my success in all areas of my life. His appearance was a critical part of that narrative. I'd bought him a beautiful, expensive dark navy suit a month in advance. We'd had it tailored. He looked incredible in it, like a movie star. I had the whole look planned down to the last detail, the slim silk tie, the polished Oxford shoes, the subtle pocket square. That night he got ready in silence. The air in our apartment was thick with my nervous energy. He put on the suit, the crisp white shirt, the tie I'd picked out. He looked exactly like the man from my fantasy. Then, as he was about to put on his jacket, he fastened a watch onto his wrist. It was his father's watch. It was a simple, sturdy-looking thing from the 90s. A Seiko with a worn brown leather strap and a steel case that was more practical than elegant. It was the watch his father had worn every single day of his life until he passed away 2 years before I met Hudson. It was Hudson's most treasured possession. I knew the story. He'd told me how his dad, a man of few words, had handed it to him on his 21st birthday and just said, "Be a good man." And it clashed with the suit. I saw it from across the room and my stomach just plummeted. It was too bulky, the leather was too faded, the face was too busy, it broke the sleek, modern silhouette I had so carefully constructed. All I could see was this one glaring imperfection. I walked over to him by the front door, my heart pounding with a ridiculous, outsized panic. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice even and light. "What about the watch I got you for Christmas? The minimalist one? It would look so perfect with the suit." He looked at me, then down at his wrist, his thumb stroking the worn leather. "I wanted to wear my dad's tonight," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "For luck, it feels right." And I just broke. I didn't yell, I didn't throw a tantrum, I did something far worse. I let out a long, theatrical sigh, the kind designed to convey immense suffering. I looked him in the eyes, my expression a carefully crafted mask of exhaustion and disappointment, and I said, "Hudson, please. I have asked for so little. Just for tonight, can you just look like you belong in my world, just once? Can you do that for me?" The words hung in the air between us, ugly and irrevocable. I hadn't just criticized a piece of jewelry. I had told him that his history, his sentiment, his very essence did not belong. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. A complete and total withdrawal. The light just went out, he didn't say a word. He just slowly, deliberately unbuckled the watch, slipped it into his trouser pocket, and put on his suit jacket. The entire gala, he was the perfect partner. He smiled, he made small talk, he applauded when my name was called. But he was a ghost. He was there, but he was already gone. The next morning was a Saturday. I woke up late, the champagne from the night before leaving a dull throb behind my eyes. The bed felt strangely large. I reached out for Hudson, but my hand met only cool, empty sheets. I figured he was just being considerate, letting me sleep in while he went for a run or to grab coffee. I dragged myself out of bed, expecting to find him in the living room, scrolling through his phone on the sofa, but the apartment was silent, eerily so. His laptop wasn't on the dining table where he usually left it. The first real prickle of unease started in my stomach when I went to make coffee. His favorite mug, a ridiculously oversized ceramic one from his college alumni association that I always teased him about, was gone from its hook. It was a small thing, but it was his thing. A cold dread washed over me. I walked, then ran to the bedroom closet. I pulled the door open and my breath caught in my throat. His side was bare. The expensive suit from last night was hanging there, pristine and solitary like a museum piece. But everything else, the hoodies, the jeans, the flannels, the faded t-shirts, even the shoes I hated, was gone. He'd even taken the new, expensive clothes I'd bought him. It was a clean sweep. There was no note on the pillows, no dramatic, angry letter taped to the mirror. My phone lay on the nightstand silent. I scrolled through my messages, my hands shaking. Nothing. I called him. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. It was only then that I saw it. A single solitary text message, sent hours earlier, probably while I was still asleep. It read, "Tessa, I left the clothes you bought for me, but I think I need to get my own stuff back. I wish you all the best." That was it, 2 years of a life together, of love and laughter and shared dreams, erased in a single, polite, devastatingly final text message. He hadn't fought, he hadn't screamed. He had just evaporated. He took his world back and walked right out of mine, leaving nothing behind but an empty closet and a silence that screamed his absence. For the first 2 days, I was in a state of frantic denial. This was just Hudson being dramatic, I told myself. He was avoidant, he hated confrontation. He'd cool off for a day or two at a friend's place and then he'd be back, and we'd have a long, difficult talk, and I'd apologize, and everything would go back to normal. I bombarded his phone with a chaotic mix of messages. Apologies, I'm so sorry, I was a monster. Accusations, how could you just leave without talking to me? And desperate please just call me Hudson. I love you. They all remained there, a string of pathetic blue bubbles, delivered but unanswered. I even drove to his office building during his lunch hour, sitting in my car across the street like a private detective in a bad movie. I saw him walk out with a coworker, laughing at something they said. He looked completely normal, he looked free. I couldn't bring myself to get out of the car. By the third day, desperation had fully set in. I called Amelia, our mutual friend, the one who had introduced us. I put on my best victim voice, weaving a tale of how Hudson had just inexplicably and cruelly vanished, conveniently glossing over the details of the gala night. I cried, I told her how scared and confused I was. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. It was a heavy, uncomfortable silence. When Amelia finally spoke, her voice wasn't filled with the sympathy I was expecting. It was gentle but weary, almost pitying. "Tessa," she said slowly, "are you really that surprised?" The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? Of course I'm surprised. He just left. No, he didn't just leave, she corrected me, and the gentleness in her voice was now tinged with an unmistakable edge of frustration. We all saw it happening. For 2 years, we watched you try to sand down all his edges. You treated him like a fixer-upper. Every time we were all out together, you'd make some little comment about his shirt or a joke about his taste in music that wasn't really a joke. You did it right in front of him, right in front of us. Did you ever think about how that made him feel? She took a breath. You didn't fall in love with a trophy, Tessa. You fell in love with Hudson. Then you spent every single day trying to turn him into a trophy anyway. The man you wanted him to be wouldn't have loved you in the first place. The man he is, well, you broke his heart. Amelia's words were like a bucket of ice water. They didn't just sting, they shattered the carefully constructed narrative I had built around myself, the one where I was the well-intentioned, sophisticated girlfriend, and he was the one who was being difficult. For the first time, I was forced to see myself through his eyes. A week after he left, I was numbly going through the motions of cleaning the apartment, a futile attempt to impose order on my chaotic inner world. I was clearing out the nightstand on his side of the bed, a drawer I hadn't opened in months. It was mostly empty, but tucked away at the very back, underneath an old paperback, was a thin, plain envelope. My heart hammered against my ribs. Maybe it was a letter, an explanation. It wasn't. Inside were 2 tickets. They were for something called the Retro Arcade and Craft Brew Fest, a 2-day event in a small town about 3 hours away near where he grew up. The date on the tickets was for the upcoming weekend. I stared at them, a wave of nausea washing over me. I remembered vaguely months ago him showing me the website on his laptop. He had been so excited, his face lit up like a kid's. They're going to have a whole row of original 80s pinball machines, he'd said, his voice buzzing with genuine joy. And what had I said? I was scrolling through a fashion blog on my phone, half listening. Sounds nerdy, I'd replied, my tone dismissive. I'm not sure that's really my scene, babe. He never mentioned it again. But he bought the tickets anyway. He had bought them hoping, I guess, that I might change my mind, that the me he fell in love with was still in there somewhere, underneath all the layers of brand strategy and social anxiety. Finding those tickets was the final brutal blow. It wasn't about a watch or a t-shirt, it was about this. It was about me dismissing his joy. I had taken his vibrant, colorful world and tried to paint it all in tasteful shades of beige. The story ends here, really. I'm sitting in the dark in this silent apartment that feels like a tomb. And I'm doing the one thing I know I shouldn't. I'm on his Instagram. He must have just switched it from private to public. There's a new photo posted an hour ago. He's at a loud, crowded bar with some friends. He's laughing, a wide, unburdened, genuine laugh that I haven't seen in years, and he's wearing it, that faded gray t-shirt with the sci-fi novel cover. The one I told him was juvenile. He looks more himself than I have ever seen him, and I have never felt less like myself.